Welcome into Community Forum, an opportunity for you to meet community leaders, talk about community events and services. And, I call them guests, but really they're becoming regulars here on WMPC. Been friends of this ministry for a long time. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow of Healing of the Heart Ministries, a ministry of reconciliation. Chuck and Dee Dee, good Monday morning.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Greg.
Good to have you here. And rather than, because you're becoming regulars, we're not going to dig too deep into what healing of the heart is. I want to get right to our topic, so we have plenty of time to talk about it. And today's topic is balancing marriage and career. So can you unpack that for us a little bit and sort of set the stage with the couples that you work with?
Okay. Balancing marriage and career is a huge issue. I think for everyone, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, that's your career, whether you're a homeschooling mom, whether you're a career woman out in the workplace. Many people are working from home now, but that still doesn't change the dynamics of the core of it is, what are we living for? What are our goals in life? What are our expectations as a couple? What is important to us? Chuck Swindoll says, in a hurry-up lifestyle, things that should be meaningful are sacrificed on the altar of the temporary and superficial. And this is what happens in our society many times. What are we going after? What goals do we want to achieve? What do we want our life to look like in our sunset years, our relationships? And I know many of us think, our career can become everything to us. And then our relationships falter and fail. And we are very busy people. And sometimes we think we're worthy. If we must be worth something if we're busy all the time. Because you ask someone, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so busy. Everyone says it. Retirees say it.
Right.
Everybody says it. So, we have to really evaluate what we would like our spiritual life. What should our spiritual life look like? We need to ask God these questions, really. Because if we've given our heart to the Lord, we've given our life to the Lord, our goals and priorities should be His goals and priorities for us. So I think that's the first step. There's a lot of practical things also in that, and we have to make sure that our spouse is feeling loved every day, and that they're on board with loving us. If we're escaping our spouse through our career, that says we need help. We need help, because the relationships in our lives, we're supposed to love God, love our neighbor as ourselves, and that includes our neighbors, our spouses, and our children.
Absolutely. So, my wife had lunch with a friend down in Nashville on Friday that she hadn't seen in 11 years, and she's a very high-powered attorney in the Chattanooga area, and she and her husband were together for 28 years, and she will tell you 26 good years, and then he was gone. And she's, trying to balance a career as an attorney and having 3 teenagers in the house. And that happens, doesn't it? Those kind of situations happen, don't they?
They do. They do. And God is in the business of restoration. We can always, we need to get back to, how they talk about, I don't know anything about football, but I think they were talking about, what is his name, Chuck Landry or whoever that was. And
Tom Brady.
Somebody would say, we need to get back to basics.
Vince Lombardi, that's right.
Vince Lombardi.
Yeah, they
say, we need to get back to basics.
Right.
And, maybe that's what we need to do in our society. The family, marriage, is the bedrock of our society. And we're sacrificing that. This is another quote, I believe, from Chuck Swindoll. Busyness rapes relationship. It substitutes shallow frenzy for deep friendship. It promises satisfying dreams but delivers hollow nightmares. It feeds the ego but starves the inner man. It fills the calendar but fractures a family. And so we are always, Chuck and I are always evaluating when we need to move forward, when we should pull back, what we should say yes to, what we should say no to. And you do have to learn to say no to some things, or you're not going to have a good marriage relationship, because it takes time to love someone.
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow are my guests. Healing of the Heart Ministries, balancing marriage and career is our topic. And Chuck, talk to us a little bit about the men, and how does this happen to us so much that we have gotten to the point where, as Dee Dee said, we glorify being busy, and we have this work life and this home life, and then that's what I want to ask you about. And then secondly, how in the world, as she mentioned, is this happening as so many more men are working from home now, and these two worlds are kind of colliding?
Yeah, I guess you could call it colliding. But on the other hand, I don't know if this is just a recent event or if it's actually been going on for. I mean, yes, it's a recent event where many of these men are working out of their homes, but we've been actually thinking it's a good thing, even if the worlds do collide, because I know maybe as a guy that I try and think everything's in balance, and I'm always working hard to keep things in balance. But maybe I'm really good at running back and forth, like if I was on a ship and I'm running from side to side, trying to keep the ship balanced. But in reality, I'm not. I have to give it up to God and realize that He's the one that keeps things in balance, not really me. And admittedly, we get a lot of, myself included, we get guys that come in, and they really don't understand necessarily how out of balance their marriage and career are. You mentioned this lady whose husband just, passed after many years of marriage, and it was a sudden thing. Well, we get men who come in and don't realize that their marriage is in trouble, and they'll come in and say, I don't understand it. I thought I had everything in balance, and now all of a sudden it's way out of balance, and I don't get what's going on here. But there are usually clues out there that we're trying to avoid, I guess, looking at.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, as Dee Dee pointed out, this is true. This is true for stay-at-home moms. They've chosen that career. My mom did that. She worked for 8 years in an office before she got married, and she made a career decision. Back in the 50s, a single woman with her own money, her own place, her own car, and she said, I want to be a wife and a stay-at-home mom. But that's still a career, and that can still get out of balance, can it, Dee Dee?
Oh, for sure. And I think I was the premier person that did that. We got saved shortly after we got married. So we were new Christians when our children were small. So we were being discipled and learning along with them. And we decided to homeschool. Well, I felt pretty much overwhelmed every day, but I kept plowing along. And we did have a lot of really good times, but I can see in many ways where, we said yes to too many things. We were, I was trying to measure up. It was a new thing back then, homeschooling, and there was a lot of opposition to it and so forth. So you always felt like you were on the hot seat to figure out how to keep all the balls in the air, But we did try to, pull back, figure out what works. And so, in us both being in the ministry now, even so, we're very busy in the ministry, and we have to, we're keeping up a house. We have lots of grandkids. We want to be close with them. We want to be in their lives, and our children also. So all of these are balancing things. And, there are different slices of life, so to speak. Our career is a part of that. Financial decisions, social interaction, family, physical, personal development, and spiritual development. But we can't condemn ourselves. I think we start to feel guilty. Oh, gosh, I'm not doing this, or I'm not meeting this need. Maybe God wants someone else to meet that need. Just because there's a need doesn't mean that God's telling us to meet it. Maybe He wants someone else to meet that need. I'm talking about things outside the home. Focus on the Family used to talk about, God first, our personal relationship with Christ, then our spouse, then our children, then the other things in life, and it's so easy to get all of that mixed up and out of order.
Absolutely. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, my guest today. We're talking about balancing marriage and career. And just as a sidebar, Dee Dee, the convention that I was at last week, they indicated that since the pandemic began, homeschooling in America has tripled. Mm-hmm. There are 3 times as many households homeschooling as there were 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's come a long way, hasn't it?
It has, and I can see now you've got, or maybe the wife or husband works at home now. We just spoke with a gentleman this week to get his take on this because he is an executive that works from home, and
we wanted to know if because in the past we knew a lot of guys that were in engineering, and they had to travel a lot, like to overseas, to Europe or to Asian countries, to meet with people on a regular basis to discuss the projects they're working on. We thought maybe that was still the case, but one of the things I like to mention is the idea of when a husband comes home to work with his wife, or comes home to work out of his house, I'm wondering if the wife may have had expectations. Well, while the husband's gone at work, like away from home for, say, several years, or I don't know how long they've been married, say 10 years, but now they find out, he's going to come home. Might the wife have had some expectations? Oh, good, he's going to be home now. I know he's working out of the house, but maybe we can be together more than we were and so she might have some expectations that the husband doesn't realize at all. Like, he just thinks, I get to work out of my house. But does that mean but does that really mean that I'm going to be closer to my wife in a more intimate way? She might be thinking that, and then when he comes home and keeps working and kind of ignores her because he's busy, and even though he's at home, then she's even more hurt than when she was going away to the office day down in wherever that was at. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that can happen. And, with the traveling, this gentleman did say that some people are still traveling, but for the most part they're using Zoom now, mm-hmm. which my concern is, the men or women who are executives and travel. There's many women that travel on their jobs, and the husband is home with the children or whatever. So, but Whitney Phipps, who is a famous Christian singer.
Right. Yep.
He said, if I'm going to be gone 4 or more days, my family comes with me.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband used to travel. Chuck used to travel on his job when we first started getting healing. And, actually our children were pretty much grown. They were maybe older teens or so. And his bosses said, fine, take your wife with you. We paid for my expenses, but, he had, his hotel and all that.
Sure.
So, I got to... So don't discount what the Lord can do to change a situation, too, to help you be together. And I know a lot of families are doing this now because the husbands and wives are working out of the home. They bought a motorhome, and the whole family's going to Florida.
Right, sure.
Or they're traveling around the country, and the people are still working on their jobs.
Yes.
So because of technology, there are more options available. But I would say our heart and our focus. Where's our heart and our focus? And that goes back to, what are we living for? And are we pleasing the Lord in our relationships that are the most important to us?
I'm going to ask you a question about how to get where we need to be, but I want to brag on my wife for just a second. I know she's not listening. In her field, she is underemployed, and that is her choice. She could be making a lot more money, but that would mean a lot more hours and more time away, and she wants to prioritize our marriage. And so she's could be making, anybody in her field would look at her and say, you could be making a lot more money. But basically, except at certain times of year when she's really busy, it's basically 8 to 4:30, and I really appreciate that. Dee Dee, you talked about making spiritual priorities number one. How do you do that when someone says, listen, we're both working. We're sort of like passing like ships in the night. We're not spending a lot of good time together. We don't have time. We don't even have time for a date night once a week or twice a month. And the reason we're doing that is because we have these bills to pay, and we've got a mortgage and 2 car payments and college debt. How do you counsel people that are sort of committed to their jobs because they've got bills to pay?
Mm-hmm. And gas to pay for.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Well, you might need a mortgage for your gas. So,
so how do we make that work?
right.
I think that's where we need to really reevaluate. If we need help with learning how to manage our money, then we should get Christian help for that. There's many organizations. We kind of give people some help with that, especially marriage prep people. But, it's a step-by-step. We don't need to feel so anxious about everything. I think that's one of the problems is we're so anxious, and we're driven then, and we're driven away from our spouses and our relationships to meet some other goals. Now, we do have to learn to live within our means, and we do have to pay for those things. But, if we know we're on the road and we're tracking, that gives us peace too, rather than it's totally out of control. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're not controlling our spending. We don't have a plan. We're not working the plan. It causes more stress in the relationship and in our work. So if that's a basic step that can help. And then we know, okay, there's an end of the road. Then what are we going to do when we get out of debt? Or are we going to keep spending so that we keep on that hamster wheel? So that's a practical thing that you can find help. There are people in churches that will help you.
Yeah, a couple of churches I know, just find a church that you don't have to go there on Sunday, but a lot of churches offer a class called Financial Peace University, mm-hmm. and they'll give you the baby steps, and so it's not overwhelming. And there's other places where you can find help like that as well. That's huge, and I got to believe that financial pressure is a huge stressor on marriages.
Mm-hmm. And now many spouses feel like we both have to work outside the home because we can't make it if we don't. And so the children are left alone. There's so many situations that are heartbreaking. We have to learn how to help each other with the chores. Many of us grew up where, the woman did this and the man did this. And, we may have to change that up if we're both working so that we can have some free time. And I think it's an especial challenge for people that work different shifts. When we get people in our office that work different shifts, honestly, they're never together.
In other words, they're working opposite shifts.
Yes, opposite
shifts.
They're never together, and that is so destructive to marriage. We have to connect our heart with our spouse every day, which is a challenge. And I would say even for us, we need to practice what we're preaching. If we're sitting knee to knee, eye to eye, and we're connecting our hearts every day, we're caring. I'm spending 10 minutes caring about his heart. He's spending 10 minutes caring about my heart. That floats people's boat, even men. Once they get used to it, they like it. And so we need to spend that time connecting because, if we want, good things to happen in the bedroom, we've got to be nurturing our love for one another during the day. There's many ways to connect with people too now. I mean, we have texting, which isn't a superior method, but it is a way of connecting with our spouse during the day. And there's all sorts of ways that we can do that. And I just wanted to mention the healthcare workers are so overtaxed
mm-hmm.
right now. We've had some as clients. They're very. It's really a very tumultuous career right now because they don't have enough people. They are working, those healthcare workers, so hard and so long, and they've been through a lot with the pandemic, and that has had an effect on relationships too.
Absolutely. And one thing, just
heard stories early on where people, healthcare workers, living in a trailer while their families living somewhere. I mean, it was, very hard. Okay, now we've got to come out of that. We have to trust the Lord. We have to be able to start connecting again, so we don't lose what God's given us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I hear you saying, and what you've been saying for the last 20 minutes or so, is we've got to have our priorities straight, right? I mean, that's really the thing, is what good is making your boss happy if you lose your spouse, heaven forbid, or if you have this miserable marriage that you just plod through day by day. Is that accurate? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes our personal issues, maybe our feelings of rejection, or we're trying to measure up, or will drive us in our careers. We have to, resolve those issues, and that's what we help people do at Healing of the Heart. And, because people think, well, there's some very prosperous people now. They make a lot of money. And so, hey, we take our kids to Disney World every year. We go on our anniversary to Tahiti or wherever. But those trips don't make the marriage. They're nice, and it's wonderful. And I feel like I could use one of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't make the marriage. Day to day, we have to be learning how to be contentedly loving our spouse.
And then one of the things we also see in balancing marriage and career, though, is the idea that there is a certain element of fear if I sense that, when things do change, can I change with them, or am I wanting to hang on to the way that the patterns that have been already set out there in my marriage and career? And when these things change, am I willing to be able to change with them? I was looking at, I like to read old books. There was a story about these sailors. They were going to go on a very dangerous journey in a small boat, and they put a lot of ballast on the boat. And then when they got out there, one of the men said, there's too much ballast. We've got way too much ballast here. When the boat rocks, it doesn't really rock. It just kind of shifts back and forth very quickly, and it's making even the experienced seaman sick because there's too much ballast in it. But the man that was in charge was afraid to let go of some of that ballast. And so often in our lives, we're afraid to let go of some of the ballast that we put in our lives and let God be in control of the ship.
Oh, that's beautiful. We'll have to leave it there. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, Balancing Marriage and Career. Any events or anything, contact information you want to share right now?
Yes, people can call us if they need help with spiritual, emotional issues or marriage problems at 810-245-7045. They can go to our website, healingoftheheart.net. Email is contact@healingoftheheart.net.
Or they can come meet us in person in a couple of weeks at First Baptist of Holly Church.
Yes, we're going to do a Love Marriage for Life conference March 25th and 26th. And you should be able to find that information at First Baptist of Holly or Healing of the Heart Ministries.
Right, awesome. And yeah, you can register, I think it's fbcholly.org. But if you have any questions about this, maybe you're driving, just call me, 810-667-1230. I'll go to their website for you and get you all that information. Chuck and Dee Dee, once again, another home run. Thanks for being with us today, and we look forward to talking to you real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, Greg.
Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, Healing of the Heart Ministries, and just Google that or put Healing of the Heart Lapeer, and you'll get right there. Their marriage conference in a couple of weeks at First Baptist Church of Holly, which is a large church out there, very easy to find. And today's topic has been balancing marriage and career, and I don't know what we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. We'll have them back on, and maybe we'll talk more about this. Certainly a lot more material to go over. Chuck and Dee Dee Bresnow, Healing of the Heart Ministries. Thanks for joining us here on WMPC's Community Forum.